And let's kick it off, Jonas, with Major League Baseball and what's going on as far as there's the behind-the-scenes stuff, what's happening, and then there's the public stuff.
Yeah.
And you know that just because, like, a lot of people, they got all worked up when they first heard the players balk and the owner's new proposal and, oh, my God, there's not going to be any baseball. Look at this. They're so far apart. And I'm like, this is what they call negotiations. Yes. Am I right or wrong?
100%. Yeah, it's the way it goes. You're going to hear one side's offer first, and they're going to try and play the public. And whenever this stuff gets out and it gets public, it never looks good and it never reflects good on the people who have the decision to counteroffer or reject a current offer because they look greedy. It's why we've talked about it before. Derek Jeter's final negotiation with the New York Yankees,
yes,
a team he had been with his entire life.
All 20 years.
Oh, my God. They were brutal. They were very contentious. Derek Jeter was pissed off, but this is part of negotiations.
No doubt about it. And I think from this standpoint, this is, could there not be a season? Sure, there could not be a season. They missed the World Series in 1994, but this is, to me, Jonas, I don't think baseball, and I'm talking about either side, can afford to do this.
I don't
Can you imagine what kind of blowback it would get if this summer we have no baseball because they're squabbling over money when people are all out of work, people are furloughed, people are in dire straits financially? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, rich people aren't dumb, Rob. Okay, they understand. Rich people aren't dumb. They realize if you shut this whole thing down, it's a bad look. But what's happening is the players' union is doing what they've done for years and years, and they're establishing themselves as the best union in professional sports, and it's not even close.
Yes,
they're not going to crack.
100%. And it's the best union, I think, in this country.
It's not even close. You can't even debate it. You talk about totally together at all times. And what Major League Baseball's owners are trying to do is divide and conquer. Have you noticed that both proposals that have come out have been from the owner side, and then the details of the proposals have come out in the middle of a pandemic, so it makes these highest paid players in baseball look like bad guys if they turn down $7 million because everybody out there is thinking with their wallet and not the wallet of a player who signed a contract for $35-40 million a year. That's from the owner side. You notice how in this latest proposal, the top paid players are really, really punished as far as taking a salary cut, but it's the players on the bottom who aren't hit as hard. What's that called? Divide and conquer. So the players on the bottom of the pay scale are saying, whoa, maybe this isn't such a bad thing. And then you get players arguing with each other. And then there's dissension. It's why the Players Association has been so public about we're disappointed, we're this, we're that. It's all about we. They totally believe in unity, and they're not going to let these guys divide and conquer them.
Exactly. And so you're right. And so you hear some of the stuff, it doesn't sound promising, but Jason Stark he's with The Athletic now, and he used to work at the old network. And Jonas, I think he made a point which is really good. It ain't just about this year that you're talking about, it's about next year as well. And if this year doesn't come off, next year, Mookie Betts isn't getting a $400 million contract.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most of the players don't have deals for next year. So there'll be no money coming. I mean, there's a whole big thing. So you got to work to salvage this year and then be able to be ready because the CBA comes up, right? It's next year that they need to start working on a new one. So this is something I think both sides will have to work to get this thing ironed out because it is imperative that there is baseball this summer, Jonas, more so than ever.
And listen, players don't want to set a precedence that they're willing to work with owners in this situation because if you remember, Rob, we talked about at the time, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, how long those guys had to wait, Scott Boras going public about how upset he was at the idea of these guys not getting an opportunity to be paid what they thought they were worth. You had guys like Jake Arrieta, you had guys like Craig Kimbrell, ago, you had all these other players that had to wait until after the season to get contracts. There's been a slow delivery from owners on this. They've waited and waited and waited, and players and the Players Association have spoke out about it. They understand that owners are trying to rally together so they don't have to pay as much for some of these players. And because of that, this is where we are. The players know they absolutely cannot break apart, especially right now. And the big issue that I have is when people in the media or people in fans think that players are being ungrateful because they're not willing to take a fraction of their salary based on what is happening. You can't look at it like that. You can't look at everything based on what's in your wallet. I learned that early on. I remember talking to a guy who was a sales manager at a telemarketing job that I had. And he said, my biggest problem is when I quoted somebody a price that was kind of high, I cringed. You could hear me cringe over the phone. He said, why do you do that? I said, well, it's a lot of money. He said, no, it's a lot of money for you. $1,000 is a lot of money for you. But Rob, my point on this is when fans are critical of these players for not wanting to accept these lower salaries, I understand where they're coming from, but they're also coming from their wallet, and they're not thinking about what the players are going through, their risk, and what their financial gains are beyond this year. Yes, they're wealthy, but if you set a precedence right now and you let owners know that if you can get one up on us, then you've completely broken apart the union. Owners have already tried it. Manny Machado had to wait how long to get a contract? Bryce Harper, Craig Kimbrell went into the season, Dallas Keuchel. Owners have been doing this slowly but surely over the past couple of years, and the players aren't going to take it any longer. It's not happening.
No doubt about it. There's been too much sacrifice over all these years, and I get it. I do. I don't expect the players. Everybody thought, okay, the owners will come in, throw a contract on the table, and the union will go, okay, let's go. When do we play? It doesn't work like that. You got to remember. But here's the other nugget that I think is important. We've had 26 years of labor peace in baseball. 26 years. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, that is unbelievable. You know how contentious the owners and the players union has been, right, in the history of baseball? So for us to go 26 years without a work stoppage, not any issues or whatever, I don't believe in this pandemic that this is the time or the place to break that streak. I just don't.
Yeah, and I also don't think, because the owners are trying to play sides here, and one of the points that I was making just a second ago was people can't judge these guys based on what's in their wallet. You can't do it because, look, $7 million, that's a lot to me. Okay, that's a lot to anybody. I mean, Christ, $70 is a lot to me. That's a lot to anybody. But just because it's a lot to you doesn't mean that every player should think like you. They're thinking big picture, and they're thinking, okay, if we cave now, what then on the backside of it? And owners have already started to do it, like I was saying. And I think too often fans look at what that money would mean to them as opposed to putting themselves in the shoes of the player at that time and understanding, okay, if they give here, the owners are going to assume that they'll be willing to give down the road. And because of that, and because of their willingness to stay together, it's why they've had that 26 years of labor peace, because the owners know they can't get one over on them because the players have stuck together this entire time. And they have to this time, regardless of what anybody likes, regardless of how bad it looks, quote unquote, players have to stick together. The owners going public with these details is them trying to manipulate the fans and the media and win the PR battle and try and get you to think that the players are being greedy, when the reality is it's their spin on the story and they're making the offers that are going public. And that makes me wonder, why are these offers going public? Because there's an ulterior motive by the owners.
Yeah, whenever you could put money out, it's the players. David Justice was on the show not too long ago, Jonas, and he said it's never going to look good for us, no matter what we say,
ever, because
of the money they make. And it's just a totally different. And Joe Blow and us regular people, there's no way that we can relate. Do you know what I mean?
I get it.
So when people always try to equate their salaries to play, I just say, dude, that's just a losing battle.
I was telling this story. I was in a telemarketing job doing over the phone sales, And I had a sales manager say to me, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Do what?" He's all, "Every time you give somebody the price when they ask you what it is, I can hear you cringe." And I was like, "Well, it's a lot of money." He goes, "No, that's a lot of money to you. For that person on the other end of the phone who's got a business card, that's a drop in the bucket. Stop cringing when you hear that number. Stop thinking about your wallet." And I'm telling you, too often we're thinking about our own wallets when we see what these players are making. It's a different stratosphere. It's a different world. It's not relatable. It's not even relatable to the owners. But the one thing that is transparent is the owners are trying to play you right now. And that you have to ask why that is, because they're trying to win the PR battle.
I'm still confident that this deal gets done. Where are you on this?
I am. Yeah, no, I think it'll get done because, as you said, I think that they realize if you don't get it done, then both sides look terrible. If you can't get it done, then both sides look terrible.
And it's going to hurt them financially.
Yes.
I mean, especially, I think the players next year, if you don't make any revenue, baseball's an $11 billion business with a B. A B. So there's no way that you can, if you go a year without making any money, there's going to be ramifications. There'll be teams that'll go bankrupt, right?
Yep.
File Chapter 11 or whatever they file for such a business, and it will sting. It will sting the sport.
And the people I feel bad about, the people I feel the worst about, are the people behind the scenes, the people selling concessions, the people that work for these teams, work for these stadiums, who are out of a paycheck. Some organizations have been willing to pay them through the end of June, and then what happens at the end of June? I mean, what are we talking about then? Like, it's bad, and it runs deeper than just the players and the owners, and I wish people looked at it all the way through instead of just the dollar amount that shows up on the screen.
All right, we want you to get involved and join in. 877-99 on Fox. That's right, has the public negotiations between Major League Baseball and the players changed the way you view the players? Are you starting to turn on them or not? Lawrence in Orlando, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. Lawrence, what you got?
Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. A long-time listener, called in a few times. Always great to talk to you guys. I have a question. Do you guys want full salaries or do you want a baseball season? Because it seems like you're trying to have both. You're on the player side that they deserve their full salary, but you want baseball this summer, but we can't have – it's not going to be a 162-game season.
Right.
So it's either have 162 games and either have 82 games and get prorated pay, or you have no season. We just wait till next year. So that's where from the perspective that you guys were saying, yes, I understand that the owners are leaking information. Okay, the players seem negative to the fans because of the amount of money they're making. But if the contract's for 162 games and you're only going to play 81, what's the problem with getting paid for 81 games?
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense, except for the fact that they're not doing that. They're taking a $35 million a year guy, and they're only going to pay him $7.8 million. So if what players are saying is, if we're playing half the games, cut our pay in half. But what is this? We're cutting us down to $7 million. Why can't a $35 million a year guy get $17.5 million? Why has he got to take an extra $10 million off the top if you're playing half the season? But
here's the difference: when they did the initial, because remember they agreed in principle on the initial deal between the owners and the players.
Yeah,
but they didn't know there were going to be no fans. You know, that was. That was without the whole idea that there wouldn't be any fans, and that's where the issue and the rub comes in. So yes, I get it. If I'm the players, I want to be careful. I'm not going to agree to something that's going to hurt me in the long term, but I also understand what's happening in front of me. Do you know what I mean, Jonas?
I get where the players are coming from. I'm sorry. And I know this is probably going to bother a lot of people, but you got to get over it. You got to get over your own checking account. You got to start looking at this. If somebody is telling you, hey, you're doing half the work, you would assume that you're going to get half the pay. But if they come back to you and say, yeah, so we want you to work half the time, but we're only going to pay you for one half of that half time. Well, what the hell is that? How many times do we have to go over this?
Right, but the only difference is, and this is where I'll say, is you are working half the time, but you're not working half the time as you have in the past. You're not working with a full stadium and a parking lot that's full and concessions and merchandising. That is not the same. So to just say that I'm still playing half the games, in front of nobody, I think there still has to be another concession. Now, whether or not you want to figure that out, if you want to, Jonas, defer money until other money comes in and we figure out where we are when this is all said and done, how much the collateral damage is, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and look, and I get the ramifications of no fans being in attendance, but if I were the players and if the owners came to me and they said, all right, so you're making $35 million a year, we're only going to pay you $7 and change, I would say, hold on a second. I
agree with that.
I would say if I'm playing half the games on a normal situation, I should be getting about 17 plus, but meet me in the middle. Okay, so if that's the case, then how about $12 million? Let me meet me in the middle.
That's where the negotiation comes in.
Yes,
I agree with you.
And that's why I think while people look at just the $7 million, you also have to look at what that player would have made and sort of factor that in. But I've heard that the owners aren't even willing to really discuss what exactly revenue from stadiums would bring in. They're telling you that they're taking a hit, but that some of that stuff they're not really being forthcoming with.
Well, let's say that it's 40% of their business. The NBA claims the same, that without the crowd. But we'll four-time MLB All-Star Paul Lo Duca coming right now on the Discover Card Celebrity Hotline. Paul, welcome to the Odd Couple here on Fox Sports Radio. How you doing, Paul?
Well, thanks for having me again, guys. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. And, of course, he's the four-time All-Star and, of course, with Barstool Sports. He's a host. Help me with the putting public negotiations. Some people are getting worked up. Oh, my God, there won't be baseball. Where are you on this? Do you think that they will hash this out and we'll have baseball maybe by July 4th, Paul?
I don't know. That's a good question. The guys that I've talked to, guys want to play. The thing that you have here when it comes to baseball, Rob and I have talked about this before with the Astros thing, and I had told him before, is that the Players Association just got a stranglehold on the MLB. So they're going to have to come to a reasonable decision of what they're going to pay the guys, number one, because that's just not going to cut it. I'm sorry if I took my whole life and worked my butt off to get to where I get to sign that contract. I want to play for it. I understand these are trying times. I get that. But that's just true life. Let's be honest. Those guys want to get paid. I think the other factor is when I talked to a couple of the executives, they're more worried about getting to the season, and then obviously you're going to have expanded rosters. What if one team gets infected and 11 or 12 guys get infected from that one team? Now, do you stop and let them quarantine for 2 weeks? You stop the season, or what do you do with that team? Or do you have them, or is it just like they got too many injuries? You count them as injuries, or is it just unlucky? I think a lot of executives are worried that maybe if one team gets contagious and it goes over the roster, what happens to the rest of the league? Do they stop or do they go on,
He's Paul Lo Duca, four-time MLB All-Star. He's a host at Barstool Sports, joining us here on Fox Sports Radio. Rob Parker Jonas Knox in for Chris Broussard. This is the Odd Couple here on Fox Sports Radio. Paul, what makes the MLB Players Association so much better and stronger than other sports, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, et cetera?
They've had it ever since, when I signed in 1993, and it's just when Donald Fear was running it all the way down. They just always have. MLB can investigate agents, so they sort of got the agents in their back pockets because of course they need to get agents' cooperations. If a guy's hitting 280, 15, and 80, what do we price that guy at? So a lot of people will say, oh, are you saying it's collusion? Well, definitely there's collusion. But the commissioner also caused that collusion when he let anybody, basically in baseball, can hit 270 with 15 the way the ball is now. So you end up and when you increase numbers in money wise. So then you start doing that with guys. So it's a tough question, to be honest with you. It's a great question.
Well, isn't it has a lot to do? Paul, doesn't it have a lot to do with you guys have had, Major League Baseball, when I say you guys, have had a war chest to fight the owners. So if players are hurting for money, they could go to the union and get money. These other leagues have never had that. And once they know you're not going to get a paycheck, and it's going to – that's when unions break, when people need money. And I think that's been the advantage, right, that baseball's had. Baseball.
Well,
players.
yeah, true. The other part, Rob, too, as you think about it, the TV contracts are obviously going to be larger because why? You're playing 162 games compared to any other major sport, or 81 games or 82 games in the NHL and basketball. And obviously football, you get your viewership, but you're getting to probably televise 140 after all of it, with the blackouts in here and there. So the television contracts are absolutely enormous. So, yeah, you make a great point there. And the thing about it is that the owners are complaining and whining, but these guys, they're not losing money. I mean, they're losing money, but in the long run, they're not going to be losing money if they're going to be able to get away with cutting guys' salaries 60%. It's going to be very interesting if they do not play the season. What would happen with some of these trades? That'd be craziness.
Well, I would think it would be disastrous, not only just for the owners, but for the players next year, because like a Mookie Betts he'll never get 400. If there's no baseball for 18 months, it'll be damaging to the game. I do want to say something else that's damaging to the game, even though Jonas Knox loves the idea. I'm not in for the DH in the National League. I'm a traditional guy. I love the strategy of the game. Where are you, Paul? Are you in for the universal DH from here on out, or would you like it to go back to where the leagues are separate?
Well, I would like to go, obviously, where the leagues are separate. I mean, there's just no strategic part to the game anymore anyway. If you think about it, so now you've gone from the pitcher can lick his lips, his fingers on the mound, to you can't really throw at a batter anymore. You can't take out the second baseman. You can't run over the catcher. And now you're going to have a DH. So why do you even bring a glove to the yard anymore? I mean, I could put anybody out at second base. If you think about it, if I never had to worry about getting taken out at second base, I could have played second base and stood right in front of the bag, because that's what the guys do anyway right now. So they've made it such a soft sport that they're going to make it even softer and take the strategy part about it. And again, what I don't get is the agenda when Manfred came in was we need to speed up the game. And all he's done in everything that he has done, the rules that he has made the game longer. And this is going to make it longer. And especially, what if a lefty comes in to face a lefty? He has to stay and face three batters. The next two righties behind are going to kill him. So, it's like you're making up rules as we go and changing the game, and it's just you're making it arena baseball. But, hey, is that what the fans want? They complain about 5-hour games. You're going to get 5-hour games. And, by the way, if you play them out here in Arizona, because I grew up here in 110 heat, the ball is going to fly, and the ground is going to be hard as a rock. Guys are going to be hitting 380 out here.
Paul Lo Duca joining us here on Fox Sports Radio. I have one last quick one for Paul Lo Duca. Obviously, 4-time MLB All-Star. Who's the biggest a-hole? You played catcher for a long time. The biggest a-hole in the batter's box in your career was who?
As in just on the field?
Just annoyed you. When he came up to bat, you were just annoyed. His mannerisms, what he would say.
That was it, Rod. Just never a fan. So that's an easy one.
Was that after you called the pitch and he hit it out the park?
Well, no. I will forgive everything as long as there's a Fiat in J-Lo's garage. That's all I care.
All right, Paul, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you, buddy.
You bet.
All
Thanks,
right.
Rob. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
See ya.
This is why you can't tell athletes to just stick to sports. I'll explain next. It's The Odd Couple with Jonas Knox in for Chris Broussard. Rob Parker here, you there on Fox Sports Radio.